Hello. Okay. Hello, everyone. Let's get started. Today, we're gonna be discussing about getting started with Avalonia UI. Uh, Jose and myself, we have been having a lot of requests about this topic because again, we are trying to cover everything cross-platform in the .NET world. That means Uno platform that we already have a talk on it. That means Blazor that we have a great talk with Jeffrey Palermo. That means MAUI, that Randy also give a quick introduction, but James Montemagno will also be doing a MAUI Blazor session next month. And the only one missing was Avalonia. So we asked the community for a voluntary speaker, and it seems like everyone is busy this month, so we decided why not do it ourselves. That way we're gonna learn a great tool, and I have to say after playing with this for the last month, I'm really excited about presenting this to you. So let's get started. What is Avalonia UI? And let me move this away. Avalonia UI is a cross-platform UI framework for .NET, providing a flexible styling system and supporting for Windows, Linux, and macOS. I want to mention they have beta support for iOS and Android, and they have a early stage for WebAssembly and for the web, but where Avalonia really shines is in desktop. And I want to mention, okay, let's say quickly for the one who doesn't know. So my name is Jose Columpier, and I'm gonna let Jose introduce himself. We have been in the .NET world for a lot of years. Jose more than 20, 22 years, something like crazy like that. I have been for around 10 years, a little bit, and we love it. I think that this is a great time to be a .NET developer. Right now, .NET with .NET 6, .NET 7, and even with .NET Core is everywhere. It's in Linux, it's in Mac, it's in Windows, it's in web, it's in iOS, in Android. So great moment to be a .NET developer. So I'm really excited to have choose this technology to work. And honestly, like we know that there is a hate love relationship with JavaScript, but honestly, that's not my part of the development area. So Jose, please introduce yourself and we get started.
Okay, so my name is Jose Ojeda. I've been working in .NET since day one, basically. I come from the Visual Basic 6 world, and then we moved everything to .NET. So I've been there since day one. I'm a Dev Express MVP. My language of preference is C#, and as Javier said, like we try to do or cover everything that is cross-platform in our company. Javier and I, we work together, and we tried every flavor of possible .NET invention that there is to do cross-platform. And I was going to tell you, Javier, we should do an episode that will be maybe a really small episode, or maybe like 10 minutes episode about JTK. That's one of the flavors of Xamarin Forms, and it's also the engine that renders the Linux UI. So I guess one moment you have to do something like that because there is JTK sharp. And well, basically that's it. We work in .NET 24/7, so I'm glad that now maybe Javier don't see it this way, but when .NET started, you used to think like, okay, you're trapped in the Windows ecosystem, and and that was it. There was no other choice. We have like Mono a long time ago, but it's not the same Mono or Xamarin that we know today. So, as you said, Javier, like I didn't plan for this or being a cross-platform developer, but I'm really thankful to .NET and Microsoft that they decided to get out of the box and go to every possible platform. So that's it, Javier.
Yeah, actually, you will see, and we're going to discuss this later on. Like even Avalonia, is able to run in Raspberry Pi. It's able to run in a series of Linux distros. So the feature is really brilliant with Avalonia UI. So there are our Twitter handles there. Please reach out. We really enjoy talking about .NET, talking about technology. If you have any questions, if you want to discuss anything, feel free to reach out. We try our best to answer right away. So the first thing that we want to mention is, of course, with Avalonia, even with Xamarin, you can do all your UI in C#. So you can do a complete C# coded UI. But the idea here is the XAML capability. So if you are a WPF developer, if you are a Xamarin developer, you are used to already to the XAML dialect. And also, we know that a lot of the designer tools are based on XAML. So that's the main part. And we want to say that Avalonia came, in my opinion, to fill a gap that WPF had, that it was cross-platform. As Jose said, WPF has always been really tied to Windows. So if you want to do something, for us, if we want to do something quickly, most probably we use SAS. But I know a lot of developers that they want to do a quick prototype, something quickly, and WPF feel like in home. They do their XAML, they do stack panel, put three controllers, and they have something working. But it's only for Windows. Now, Avalonia came to solve that problem, came to take that huge power that WPF comes and put it on Mac, and put it on Linux, and put it on Windows. So it's not WPF is not that you made a cross-platform WPF, but it's definitely an evolution. It's where WPF, in my opinion, should have gone. I think that we're gonna talk a little bit about this, Jose, but I think that Avalonia is what WPF should have been, and Uno platform is what Xamarin Phone should have been. It's using the XAML that Microsoft had, the Universal Windows Platform XAML, the XAML from WPF, the XAML for, because even the Xamarin Phone XAML is different. But the idea here is like, you got your converters, you got your triggers. So if you know all that already, it's going to be really useful for you to get started with Avalonia UI.
So, and Javier, just before you move from this slide, I cut you off, there is something that is really important here. Is, well, since I'm in .NET for a long time, well, there was a transition moment between Visual Basic 6, which was Win32, and hoping that .NET will, in the end, kill Win32, right? That didn't happen. Windows 32 is still alive today. So, I remember, like, I got a WPF book, first edition, like when first was released. And if you come from Windows form, it looks strange. It just looks strange because it's like XML based. And they say that this, at that moment, I don't even remember which year it was, but they say like this is how UI language should be done. This is like the pattern of UI language for the future. And it's true because XML, you can extend it like, forever basically. It's infinite in that sense. You can always extend. That's why XML means, right? So, now we can see that this approach is the approach that is more common, available even within other languages. For example, for Android, the UI, if you do Android Studio in Java, is based on XML. So it means that this is a really good idea. I mean, it has several implementations on the Microsoft side, but still, each of them cover a different problem basically. But in the end, that's the way to go. And if you're like a XAML WPF developer or Windows Forms developer, in the sense that the next step is WPF, that's the way to cover several desktop environments like Mac OS and Linux.
Actually, also, I think that I told you, I met Billy Hollis in the UnoConf a few years back, and he, I know this is going to be like a debate, but he explicitly states, XAML is the best framework, the best, it's a markup language, but it's the best tool to create UIs, It's composable. So, and I have beliefs like that because, again, I didn't start with web, I started with XAML. And I can see a XAML and kind of have in my head the UI that I'm going to be seeing, even if it's a grid. I kind of imagine how it will be. You will not be able to do that with HTML. With HTML, the CSS is just you have to run it. You have to have throat reload or something. So because without that, it's just like I'm lost. So I really like XAML. So this definitely Avalonia using XAML is a great solution. And we're gonna see actually when we do a quick demo that Avalonia UI has an extension. Like you were saying, Android has an extension for the XML. Avalonia has another one, and the reason for that was tooling. Visual Studio was conflicting with the designer of Avalonia, was conflicting with other things. So definitely, XAML is a great tool to create UI. Now, let's continue to the next slide, because this is important. Why would we choose Avalonia? Why not choose something else? Or why I'm here listening to these two guys talking about Avalonia? the main reason is because Avalonia has been around since 2015, is mature and production ready. And when we say that, there are a lot of examples. If you go to us on Avalonia, a lot of examples that you can take a look of really comprehensive projects done on Avalonia and behaving, good performance, good UI. Let me just, I put a link here to a quick case study. Let me show you one of the examples that a project built in Avalonia. You see, this is a really comprehensive UI with a backend with a 3D engine working there. And if you see, their team decided to use Avalonia, and they are using Avalonia everywhere, even in the splash screen. Every internal tooling, everything is done with Avalonia, and the main reason is because it's multi-desktop platform. So, of course, if you have a wide audience and you want to target as much as you can in the desktop world, Avalonia is the perfect fit. Because if you think about MAUI, MAUI is now being pushed to develop for desktop, but that's just not long ago. Before it was only mobile, and even there it's still lacking in the desktop world. And on top of that, it doesn't support Linux. Linux is a community effort, it's not supported by Microsoft. Avalonia is completely desktop oriented, and it comes with all the power that you expect for a desktop application. So definitely it's mature and production ready. So you guys can take a look at this case study, but this is one of the things that you can say, okay, I'm choosing the right product. And I know that I won't get left behind. Of course, it's completely open source if you want to take a look under the hood.
And also, Javier, you say something really important is the aiming of each technology. Uno and Xamarin Forms are more oriented to mobile. And Avalon is, I would say like this, the Xamarin Forms of desktop. It runs good in every desktop environment and is the desktop paradigm. So basically that's what you want to have. It's like, if you're going to move a desktop application, you're not going to do it in a mobile UI, like, the navigation and everything is totally different. So this is why you don't hear too much about Avalonia, I guess. In some cases, I mean, if you start digging around, you will hear about it. But usually Xamarin Forms is the famous kid on that area, I guess. But it's only for the mobile environments, because everything that is desktop, and I tried to do Linux applications on Xamarin Forms, and it's just not there. Avalonia is actually there. So that's the main difference. It's like depending on the target platform. So mobile, Uno and Xamarin Forms, and now MAUI, and desktop, Avalonia.
So let's just give a quick trivia for everyone who likes those history lessons. So WPF, and this is a blog post from Skia when it started, before even it was called Windows Presentation Foundation, before WPF introduced XAML as the UI markup language for Windows, it was called Avalon. So Avalonia, even in their name, it comes like a little bit integrated with the WPF goal that it was just create a really powerful desktop application framework. And you see, it's open source from the beginning and takes their inspiration from Avalon in an unapologetic love for XAML. So this is a quote from Skia, that is one of the project managers from Microsoft. And I recommend to read their talks when he talks about why do he think that Avalonia is a great choice and is a good way to develop desktop applications. Okay, let's continue. One quick showcase of the capabilities of the Avalonia framework. You can see it here of how we can have really, because this is a really comprehensive UI. This is a kind of a Photoshop similar program with a lot of information, with a lot of choices, with a lot of tools. This is what desktop is meant to be. You are not meant to do this crazy processing in a mobile phone. That's the power of desktop. Okay, now, how do we develop Avalonia applications? In your favorite IDEs, from everything that you are using right now for the net will work. If you're using Visual Studio Mac, will work. If you're using Visual Studio for Windows, will work. If you're using Visual Studio Code, even if there is still some lack of extension or some lack of love, I will say, it will work. And Rider has great support for Avalonia UI, has a great extension, and it just works. So definitely whatever you are using right now to develop your .NET application, you will be able to use to develop Avalonia UI. Platforms. We talk about that. Desktop is where it shines, but it already have beta release support for iOS and Android, and it's in the early stage for WebAssembly. So basically, it's promising everything. And we're gonna talk about those ideas that write just one runs everywhere. Yeah, it's great to be able to do that, but it sometimes loses UX experience. You definitely need to design a different screen from Windows or desktop than from mobile, but even from iPad. If you want to give your user the best experience possible, if you give your user just a simple mobile app in the desktop, you will feel like this. I don't need a desktop application with 3 buttons. So that's one of the other things. And Linux. Linux is not that, yeah, it runs on Linux. No, they took their time and it runs basically, as we talked about in the beginning, even in Raspberry Pi, in all these Linux distros and a few more that are not here. And the Linux deployment have these choices that are, in my opinion, a great way to target and to apply to more of the Linux world. And Jose is a Linux guy. He works and lives in Linux all the time, so he can talk to you a lot more about this part.
Yeah, actually, Javier, I think that this is one of the, or for me at least, the main place where Avalonia shines. And is, okay, usually, well, nowadays you have Net framework running everywhere, right? Like Net 5 and Net 6. But you still have one problem. How do you render the UI? Well, you can do it in a few ways. If you have a like Linux system, any system, and you don't use any UI, just a console, it means that you can spin up a web server and then have a Blazor UI, for example. Like routers do that. They run a small version of Linux or something like that. Then they spin up a small web server, and then you have the UI that controls the UI. So that's one way. But what if you want to have a physical screen? Then you have two choices. One is using a Linux distribution or a sub distribution like Raspberry Pi OS, right? Like it's not exactly a complete Linux, but that you can use any of the distributions that renders the UI in X11. Basically, that will be the most common UI server for Linux. There are other ones. So in that case, the rendering engine is totally different and some stuff might not work, but almost every distribution runs X11. So that's one of the choices, right? And that will be like the heavy choice or the difficult choice. Because you have to ship bigger distributions for that. Because you have to ship all the UI libraries, and so the footprint of your old device will be bigger in general. Or you can do it in a different way. If you don't use X11 and you only install Linux with the as a console, then the kernel have some special instructions that let you use each individual pixel of the screen, like somehow like a really advanced console. Because if you ever did console applications, you need to write every pixel, like you do loops do the windows and stuff. So, for someone to understand this, they have to have used like create windows on C++, which is a ton of code. But in general, okay, going back to the main point is, the Linux kernel allows you to do manipulation of each pixel. So then is where Avalonia will shine in that sense, because you don't need to ship a UI server in your Linux distribution. You just need to basically compile your application in it's not even a special compilation, but you just have to add a few parameters and you change the startup of the application. And what that means is that it will render the UI without having a UI server in Linux. That will make your application really, really, really small and your distribution really, really, really small, because you don't have to ship the X11 server. So for embedded devices that want to show a desktop environment type of application, and you want to make it like small footprint, like the only choice is either C++ Windows or Avalonia. So I think that it's a win for Avalonia in that sense. It's a king of that area.
If you think about that, that's a perfect scenario for the IoT application. Embedded devices with IoT application, because a lot of time we need some type of visualization of what you're doing in your.
After all, you're an electrical engineer or whatever is equivalent to an electrical engineer, right? So it's like in embedded devices, you don't have a space for it. You have only like a small storage and not that much CPU. So you should save as much as you can save in CPU processing and storage. So I guess it's perfect choice for embedded devices.
I think that this is one of the huge advantages from Avalonia to things like Xamarin Forms and to things like Uno platform is the amazing support that they have for Linux. You have desktop application that is completely cross-platform in Windows, in Mac, and Linux. And they are really focused on being cross-platform. That means they are not taking any API that will not work across the three main target platforms. So you can be confident whatever you are writing, it will work in any of those three platforms. So let's continue. So what are the common uses for the Avalonia UI? Of course, new projects. If you want to create a new project, that's a perfect, valid choice. And for the desktop application, I will definitely recommend that. After playing with this for the past month, I'm excited, and I already have a couple of projects in mind that are going to start using it. But if you see here, there is a screenshot of one application that is called Fluent Search. That is actually only Windows, because a lot of times you get used and you like this cross-platform, but you only need to target one. So it's a complete valid choice to use Xamarin Forms just for Android. It's a complete valid choice to use Avalonia just for Windows. And this is a Fluent Search that if you have tried sometimes the Windows search, even for looking for a local file and it sends you to the web, then we cannot go to the web and look for it. Sometimes it's missing a little bit, and this Fluent Search is really good. And after researching for a little bit, this is completely 100% Avalonia UI. So kudos to that. And of course, I think that, and I believe this is the most common usage, is WPF modernization. So if you already have a WPF application and you need to do go cross-platform, or you need to add any other capabilities to the new wave of features that your clients are getting, and you want them to use their Mac, and so Avalonia is the perfect use. I think that we can even do some type of analog between this. If you think about everyone who is using Silverlight, OpenSilver is the way that you modernize your application as fast as possible, because you are able to, a lot of the things that you have, use it. And as a statement or a testament of how good Avalonia UI is, we have the team from JetRider. So they did their whole .trace and .memory in Avalonia. So think about JetRider is a huge company with a really good IDE that a lot of .NET developers use, and they decided, because most of the thing was on WPF, that it made sense for them to select Avalonia UI as their tool for development. So that's a huge, huge compliment to the Avalonia team. That's like a huge development team saying, hey, we believe in you, and you have everything we need. You have cross-platform, you have open source, and you have support for modernizing what we have. So they took their .trace and .memory and recreated a brand new home screen, and they are really happy with it. And they even have a blog post about it where they talk about how they went about that and all the benefits with that came with that. So with that saying, we want to clarify that Avalonia is not WPF. It's not the same. It's not like we took WPF and you made a cross-platform. No, they have a few differences. And this is another quote from Scott Hanselman. Avalonia may smell like WPF, but it's not. It's not cross-platform WPF. It's Avalonia. Avalonia does styles different than WPF and actually have a lot of subtle but really significant syntax improvement. So what does that mean? That let's take a look at this screenshot. So right here is the way to build a window in WPF, the screenshot on the top. Basically, you have a window, you have a button, and you have the namespace on the top about the WPF summary presentation. If you go down below, it's how you do a window in Avalonia. So for modernization purpose, it does make sense because sometimes the changes are as minimal as here. It's just changing the namespace. But the thing is like Avalonia is not focused on 100% WPF API compatibility. Other platforms, for example, Xamarin, they guarantee 100% compatibility with Android and compatibility with iOS, everything in there. If you think about Uno, they are trying to do API compatibility as well. So it has his pros, his cons, and his cons. But one good thing about this here is that you can make sure that everything you write it will grow cross-platform. So that means that everything that doesn't work across the board in the three target platform, they will not use it. They will not consider it. It needs to work all across the board. So I think that that's a really nice decision. Let's call it like that. One thing that is different in WPF and Avalonia are styles. We were discussing with the quote from Hanselman. Style, the first thing, they have a mix of CSS and WPF and UWP styling. Xamarin Form also have CSS on their mix, but the styles are not stored in resources. They have a style collection that the control and the application have. And if the styles are applied to that control, that style goes and ripple through all the descendants. So it's a different approach, and I think that is even more clean than the approach that we have in WPF. Data templates, same as styles, they are storing a data templates collection. And data templates in Avalonia that does not happen in WPF can target interface and derivative classes. And I think that today, like with when we want to develop a really loose couple application, we need to use interfaces across the board. That's the way to use. So we can switch implementation and we can say, okay, right now we don't want to export to Excel, we want to export to another format, and we just change the implementation of the same interface and we're good to go. So data templates now can target interface and derived class. So we have been talking about this, but this is a really common question. A lot of people talk about Avalonia and WPF, but what about Avalonia and Xamarin or MAUI, that is the evolution, or Uno? So let's discuss this three for a little bit. Xamarin, and Xamarin by itself, not with Xamarin Form, was the way that through C# you got a binding to all the APIs from Android and iOS right away. So you were able to do in the few years back, before 2014 when Xamarin Forms came, you were able to do from C# your development for Android and iOS. But your UI was still a storyboard on iOS and was still Android XML. And then Xamarin Forms came through. And with Xamarin Forms, you have then, with the same XAML, you using your UI for iOS and Android. But from the beginning, the focus was mobile. Uno platform, I think that is a really interesting scenario because they did use the XAML that UWP had. So I think that Uno platform will have become the universal Windows platform that Microsoft promises because you were able to use that same XAML, your same C# and put it in Android, put it on Windows, put it in iOS, and put it on Mac, put it on web. So they all have their strong focus, but I want to mention this is very important. Xamarin and Uno were focused on mobile first. Avalonia was focused on desktop first. So even if they can kind of do everything, Xamarin and Uno, they shine in mobile. Avalonia shine in desktop. So there is a difference between platforms. And we have seen that the cross paradigm, everyone have their feelings about it, but in our opinion, it doesn't work 100%. If you remember Windows 8, they bring this, they even remove the taskbar, the bar on the bottom, so you can actually, your start bar, and they have to put it back on Windows 10. It was not a desktop user experience. And now with Mac Catalyst, I think that if you have run some of your iPad apps on Mac, they are missing. They're like, why do I need these huge buttons on my Mac that only do three things like in your phone? it doesn't make sense. You need like desktop applications should be more powerful, more feature rich, especially for content creation and things like that. So hopefully the Mac Catalyst movement will get more advanced, but where it is right now, it's still lacking a little bit. So if we think about that, and that's why we have this, like if you see the same UI in desktop and mobile, in desktop, the font size increase, you add an extra column, you add more functionality. That's the user experience in desktop. But one really interesting scenario is maybe creating Avalonia as a backend for your Xamarin and platform application. And right there, you will have 100% code reuse. Why? Because I have not seen any platform with as much support for Avalonia for Linux. So you will definitely have with Avalonia desktop app for Mac, Windows, and Linux. Desktop app for Linux with that support in the .NET World with the chart. It doesn't come with MAUI. It doesn't come with Xamarin Font. It doesn't come. So Blazor is a web application. It's not a desktop application. Maybe you can do something like Electron and things like that, of course. But it's a different approach. It's an hybrid thing that you are trying to approach. It's a grapper on top of your application. But right now, you could have all your view models, let's call it like that, all your code reusable completely across all the platforms. And then you could use Xamarin and for mobile. So this is a really interesting approach that we can consider, but definitely they have their difference. They are not enemies. They actually, I think that they can work together really well. I think that there should be a love on cross-platform tools in the network. One thing that is good to mention is that Avalonia uses Skia for their rendering, and Xamarin Font, for example, use native widgets. They have done now a little bit more about trying to do a pixel perfect in every platform, but with the Skia, we're able to do it. And if you see Avalonia application looks exactly the same across the three platforms, the Windows, the Mac, and the Linux. And this is not an approach that only Avalonia is doing. Flutter is doing that. Google is doing that in Chrome and even in the Chromebook operating system. So it's a really, really valid approach, and it's a really mature approach to develop applications.
Also, Javier, there is like, they are not the only ones going to Skia Sharp. Actually, the rendering of the UI is always been a problem in .NET. For example, .NET UIs were slower on terminal server if you compare them with Visual Basic 6. I know because we have a reporting project like 2004 or 5, and we were using terminal server, and in that case, if you compare, for example, a Crystal report.NET and Crystal report from Visual Basic 6, one renders super fast and the other one was like line by line. So UI rendering has always been the weak part of the .NET framework. And also you see that now in Net 5 and Net 6, the system drawing, it doesn't work exactly the same everywhere, and it fails in Linux, for example, is something different. So they're still working on the drawing system. So I think that if you go to Skia or something like that, then you will have only one rendering engine and everything will look the same in every place. Developer Express is using that also for the reports. They will be based on the Skia Sharp, not in system drawing because of those problems, right? So I think the way to go if you want true cross-platform is use something like Skia Sharp. And there is also another UI framework for Xamarin Forms that uses Skia Sharp for perfect picture, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember which one it is, but I guess you know.
But if you think about that, Skia Sharp is not new. It's an implementation on C# of the Skia library that Google has, and it has been proved to be really performant to draw on your screen everything you want. And I think that MAUI now has a library for doing graphics and things like that, but it's just starting and it's not going to be at all less. And I believe that, I'm not sure, I think that you use kind of a Skia part.
Maybe. maybe. So, but then, well, anyway, I think that Skia is so far is a good solution at this moment, at this very moment. I mean, with MAUI, still waiting for the future, but Skia is here right now. So why not to use it, right?
Yeah, and actually, there are a lot of vendors using Skia. If you remember Aurora Control, Michael Stonis, they did a lot of controls, all of them SketchUp, and they work everywhere. That's amazing.
I really like those controls because they're super fast and they look exactly the same everywhere. So
I think that what I like, they are simple. This is what I have to do. I'm not offering you anymore. If you need more, you have to look something else. But if you need this, you got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's do a quick demo. So the getting started. How do we get started with Avalonia UI? What do we need? What do we use? So basically, let's refer to the getting started from the Avalonia repo. The great thing is everything here is open source. Everything that you want to do here. So there are two ways to go at about the starting with Avalonia. One is install the Visual Studio extension, and we can come here and we can manage extension. And we look for Avalonia. Of course, I already have it installed. And you install it. And the second way is using .NET template. So I definitely, when I try to test something fast, I always go about the .NET new templates because this is a fast thing. So basically, you just fire your command prompt and install the template. It's just as simple as pasting this command, and you're good to go. I already have it. Of course, it's already installed there, but you can see all the templates that we have available. There are a lot of them. So if you want an MVVM app, if you want a cross-platform application, if you want, so all of them are here. And you can see if you create, for example, this one, the Splat, this one will create one that has a desktop, browser, iOS, Android. So everything that you need. You can create a bare-bone application, just application with nothing. You are starting from scratch. You can create an MVVM one. So it's up to you. All of these templates are available for you. Of course, if you install the Avalonia UI extension, then if you create a new project, you will have the template from Visual Studio to create it from the wizard. Now, one thing that I find out is that when I create, the first thing that I did was using the command prompt on the new and create my project, and I didn't install the extension. I missed this designer. So when I tried to do it was my XAML with no designer. So definitely recommend doing the extension, even if I like the .NET templates more, because you will have that designer to be looking right away what you're doing. So let's put here Avalonia. And lately, I don't know why my Visual Studio has taken forever sometimes to find some templates. So let's put it beside while he's doing that. And we have a Avalonia application here. So it just came up. So if you see you have an Avalonia application, an Avalonia application MVVM. And one thing that we didn't mention, Jose, is if you see, this is a .NET application. So that means that we like C#, but it doesn't have to be done in C#. It will be done in Skia. It will be done in any of those platforms. They actually, all the examples are always in C#, but you can definitely develop with functional programming if that's your approach to do the application. Okay, let's just create one blank new. That's perfect. Avalonia application 1. And we're doing it in Windows. Jose can definitely show it on Linux. That's going to be a good experiment. So the first thing that we see here is that we have our your application class and our application XAML. One thing that we can mention is that if you see the extension is a XAML, and that's for the reason that the tooling, the Visual Studio, was somehow conflicting with the XML extension. So right here with the XAML extension, so right here they actually decided to adopt another extension, but basically it's the same XAML that we're used to. And you can even see here the styles collection that we were talking about, and you can see that we have the mode light. So this is a brand new application. We can run it just to see it in action. Let's wait for it to build and run. And if you see, if you have done XAML application, this starts looking really familiar. Everything that we were using in WPF, everything that we're using in XAML endpoint, we have MVVM, BOB models, we have commands, we have binding. So you see, welcome to Avalonia. This is the brand new application. So what about if we just, it has support for stylus, so if we just dark, we run it again. And you see somehow the designer is failing on me here. And if you see it's running on .NET 6, and right now we have it on dark mode. So let's take a look at what else do we have here. So if we go, we have our main Windows XAML, and basically it's a text log, and you see the designer now is working perfect. So now we can do things like horizontal assignment, stretch, and you see it's starting to move. We can do center again, so we can see it. We can start adding back panel. Okay, Roger. So I'm gonna pass the screen to you so you show it in Linux,
Okay.
and I will fix this little issue that I have.
So it's time for the Linux demo. So let's start by sharing the screen. We're going to share this desktop. Okay, so basically what I want to show you is that I did the same as Javier shown regarding the templates. So I will just run this command so you see which template I have here installed. And it says that I already have it, so these are the possible choices for my application. So I'm basically in this folder. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to do an MVVM application. I'm going to do just an Avalonia app. So here, this will be demo app 2 because I already have one. So, and that's it. Now I remember that I had something to open everything directly from the console in VS Code, but I removed it by mistake. So now let's go back to the directory here, and what I'm going to do is let me open a VS Code. Just one sec. I need to find another VS Code here, opening and new window. Okay, so let's open a folder. This is happening in the other screen, so that's why you're not seeing that. So document this code demo up to. So here we have it. So this is what the template created. Basically a program. Restore. And then the XML application and the XML window. So let's go to the terminal and let's do .NET Store. And .NET Build. And it's building. And I want to show it like a base application. And .NET Run. So here we have the window. This is the Avalonia window. So let's change this a little bit. So let's see. Let's do something. Let's change the UI. This demo is like super simple. I'm going to get this UI from another application. So, and what I'm going to do here is, this not demo app, it's demo app 2. So So let's save this. Sometimes in Visual Studio Code you have problems that it doesn't save. Okay, then let's do the code behind. So I have this already prepared, so you don't see me typing a lot. So let me copy the C# code here. So this is basically the handler of the button, the click, and a small extension to execute Linux commands. So let's import the namespaces. We're missing system diagnostic, and we're missing one namespace from Avalonia here. And that's basically it. Let's try to, well, save and save. And .NET build. Great. This was really fast. The first time it took me a while. So .NET run. And okay, we have almost the same app that Javier did. So in this case, it's Jorge. And the main difference is that here I'm running a bash command. Let me show you here. So here we have the output, which is this is the Linux command. So if I run this on the console, which is in the other window, it's clear. There's this. So this is my OS actually. So that's what you're seeing on Avalonia. So let's see. Let's put this here. Let's put this here. So as you can see, it's the same UI as the application that Javier did. It's not using reactive extension in this case. It's a more simple approach. But what I wanted to show you is that this is actually running on Linux, and it was super easy to do. Like you just follow the same XAML from Avalonia because the controls are exactly the same as WPF. And that's it. It's just build and run like any other .NET application. And this is actually running on Linux. So, well, basically that's it. That's all my demo. Following up, I think I will make a video for how to deploy this on an embedded device. I will show an emulator of Raspberry Pi, but that will kind of take long, so we don't have time for today. So, well, that's everything on my side. So, Javier, back to you.
Got it. Yeah, so my Visual Studio decided to misbehave, but basically it's the simple application, but it shows the main thing about Avalonia, that it's completely cross-platform, that we can use all our IDEs that we are used to. Jorge saw it in Visual Studio Code. It is Visual Studio. You can use Visual Studio Max. You can use Strider. You can use your view models exactly as we do in Xamarin. And again, you can take your XAML from WPF, your XAML that you're used to, and you can transfer here, and it will work. You can use your command, you can use your binding, you can use your trigger, you can use your converters, and everything will work. And it will work all across the board. So definitely a great tool, and come with great support, especially when you're developing in Windows with no emulator. This is just fast development. Sometimes again, Visual Studio is experimental, so we get these issues, but besides that, we're good to go. With that being said, I think that we can come back to the slides. The roadmap, they have an open source philosophy, so everything is completely open for you to go and check what they are doing, check where they are working, what is coming, and so on. And one of a great other tool that we want to leave you guys is with this as on Avalonia. So here there are a lot of sample projects, there are tutorials, there are videos, articles, podcasts. They have a lot of applications that you can just download and run, and they have a lot of presentations. So the community here is thriving. So great resource to have in our toolbox. So besides that, I think that will be all for this presentation. We want to thank everyone for joining in. And if you have any questions, if you want to reach out to us either here or in another moment, we like to always talk about .NET in general. So it doesn't have to be Avalonia, .NET, Blazor, WPF, Xamarin, WinForms, MAUI. You let us know. We're happy to discuss it. So if you guys have any other questions, please leave it on the chat. If not, we'll see you next month. Before I let you guys, I want to let you guys excited for next month. So let me bring this up real quick. The next event will be July 14th. And we're going to have James Moctemagno, the project manager from Microsoft, talking about MAUI and MAUI Blazor. So, give a second. July 14th, we're going to be talking all things MAUI, all things Blazor. So you're going to be able to run your Blazor component inside your MAUI app natively, connect to the device, connect to the sensors, and do a lot of amazing things. So thank you for sticking with us until the end. If there is no question, we'll see you next month. Bye.